I have another Kino Lorber DVD that I want to tell you about. This is SLAVA, UKRAINI. It's a film by the French Jewish philosopher and public intellectual figure Bernard-Henri Lévy. This is a film about the Ukraine war, the invasion that Russia launched, you could say, back in 2014, but of course more notoriously or more kind of widely recognized in 2022 when they went after the heart of the Ukrainian homeland. This is a film that was shot in the last half of last year, like the summer and fall of 2022, and the filmmaker himself recognizes that it's kind of an unfinished film. The little tagline here says, a travelogue of desolation, determination, and grit. And when they say travelogue, that's very literally what this is. They are on a tour of Ukraine, including some of the front lines as well as behind the scenes. They kind of do a big loop to the east, to the south, and then back to Kyiv, where the action starts. Now, this is not a film that features a lot of like battle footage. There are some scenes of soldiers in action, but it's really not focusing on that. It's more the aftermath of the battles, or the preparations, or the downtime, the lulls. And that's probably because, very wisely, the crew did not go into the thick of the fighting. But it does show what's happening, or what has happened recently in Ukraine, and it's pretty moving. It's a very fascinating and kind of unsettling, somewhat discouraging look at what people are having to endure in that very afflicted nation. But it's not all negativity either. There is a sense of hope and purpose. I'll show you the trailer in a minute, along with a few other comments that I have to say about the film. But yeah, this is part of maybe an ongoing series of films. He had actually made an earlier film in early 2022 called Why Ukraine, or Pourquoi Ukraine in the French language. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up doing another film somewhere down the road as the war reaches whatever kind of resolution it's destined to. So let's take a look at that trailer.
Poutine n'est fort que de notre faiblesse.
Russians are still making the same mistake as the Germans in World War II. They're bombing the civilian cities, civilian infrastructure, civilian houses, killing innocent people. This thing just drives us Ukrainians more mad.
So today, we are going to go to Longwood.
How's it going? Quick stuff, go, man, go. That's spotting us right now.
Oh, those are good.
Sniper, really? Sniper? What? Yeah. This year's sniper already. What is the moral of the troop? Moral of the troop?
Our moral very high.
І ми стоїмо великою міцною стіною між країною фашистом Росії і частиною Європи.
Now, I will venture to say that there are some viewers of this clip who are going to be a lot better versed and more familiar with Bernard-Henri Lévy than I am. In fact, he is somewhat of a controversial figure, and he has a significant number of detractors out there. And I can understand maybe some of that. He does kind of inject himself into the story. There are quite a few scenes where he's walking around, and even though he's like the director of the film, it's very much him in the spotlight much of the time, or at least him talking to Ukrainian people and kind of doing the narration. There's a lot of his voiceover, giving his ruminative thoughts on the events and the scenes that he's beholding. He's doing some interpretation for viewers as well, and the film very much is a rallying cry to support the Ukrainian cause including weapons, armaments, moral, financial, and military support from the Western nations. He is, as I said, a Frenchman, and he's trying to basically make sure that there's a strong resolve within the European community or wherever else he may have influence to say, yeah, we're going to stand boldly against Putin and what he represents, and even the Russian people who have empowered and supported Putin throughout all of the atrocities that he's responsible for. So I do admire Henri Lévy for this, his stance, and I do agree with him politically. He seems like an interesting figure. I've just done some reading up on him. I've been aware of his name for a while. He's been active and somewhat influential since the late 1970s. And so I'm sure he's, like I say, developed both admirers and detractors over those years. I do have some other criticisms of the film in that there's a very, I would say, intrusive musical soundtrack. Much of the time it's a piano with some other instruments and effects, and that honestly became distracting to me for a while because I'd like to just hear the people talking and just maybe no musical soundtrack at all. That sounds like a nitpick, but it really did kind of get on my nerves at a few points. Just chill with that, because it's also a bit programmatic, so it kind of feeds or prompts emotions in the viewers that I think the images and the dialogue, the spoken words, even in subtitles of the people, comes through more naturally and powerfully if it doesn't have the kind of syrupy, overloaded music on top. As a package, you get basically the film, and then there's a 20-minute Q&A that was filmed in New York City last fall when the film probably had its premiere, or at least one of its earliest showings. And that's very helpful just to kind of get Bernard-Henri Lévy's perspective of what he's trying to do with the film, as well as maybe some follow-up on the things that have happened in Ukraine since the filming was done. He kind of stopped it in midstream because, for one, his producer says, we've got to get a film out of this. The war is far from over, of course. There's big things happening. We just had the Wagner Group mutiny this past weekend, and who knows what else is going to be twisting and turning in Ukraine over the weeks and months, perhaps years ahead. But very much filled a curiosity that I had to see what's happening in Ukraine. And he also relates this to things that have happened in Yugoslavia, even going back to the Red Army and the resistance that they put up against the Nazis in the 1940s, when Hitler's armies invaded the Soviet Union and tried to collapse their one-time ally, or at least not ally, a treaty partner. And so you do get some historic context for all of the things that are going on there. A worthwhile documentary. I'd like to hear what other people have to say about the situation. If you want to make a comment, tell me your impressions of Bernard-Henri Lévy, and maybe some other films that he's done that might be worth taking a look at. I'm curious to learn more about this.